Hey guys, it's Kesara, and today I'm going to be doing my December reading wrap-up. So in the month of December, I did not read that many books. I actually ended up finishing 2 books in the month of December, which is not great. My goal is to be reading about 8 books a month. Well, some of the books were really large, so I feel like that kind of makes up for it. There were also a lot of books that I was actively reading that I just never finished. Some of these books I will be rolling over into January and finishing, and I'm really excited for them. And then some of them I may not finish, but there were 5 books in general that I was really actively reading, and hopefully I could finish reading sometime this year. I'll start with those books, and I'll just go over really quickly the book and then like quick idea of how I'm feeling about it so far. I'll have more information on those books like in my reading vlogs and my January wrap up when I actually do finish them, and then we'll get to the 2 books that I actually did finish in the month of December. So the first book that I'm currently reading is Jade Legacy by Fonda Lee. So great. I'm absolutely enjoying this. This is the 3rd book in the Greenbone saga, and I should be finishing this one very soon, so you'll have my thoughts on this very soon. The next one is The Wisdom of Crowds by Joe Abercrombie. I'm hoping to get to this one more this week. I'm like really close to the beginning. Like I haven't read very much of it at all. I will say I did not love the first chapter. I honestly felt a little disappointed by the first chapter, but this is a series that the very first chapter of the entire series, Blade itself, the first book in the series, I actually really hate. So I'm hoping that just because I don't like the first chapter doesn't mean I'm not gonna like this book, that I'm still gonna like this book. So I'm definitely planning to get back to this one soon, but I kind of wanted to finish Jade Legacy first. And then we have A Shadow in the Ember by Jennifer L. Armentrout. So I'm about halfway through the audiobook for this one. So this is the prequel to the From Blood and Ash series, and I believe it's following the first Maiden. So in the From Blood and Ash series, our main character is the Maiden, but there's kind of this historical context where there was this first Maiden who died. So this one's kind of following her. So far, I'm enjoying it. I'm a little annoyed by it in the sense that it's very similar to From Blood and Ash. It starts off with a very similar situation, and the audiobook narrator is the same narrator. So it almost feels like I'm rereading that book, but like it's slightly different. And I think From Blood and Ash is actually better. I still plan on finishing this one, so I'm hoping that I'll like the ending a little bit more than I've liked the beginning so far. Then we have Crush by Tracy Wolff. So this one I didn't finish because I had to return the audiobook to the library. So I'm still waiting to get the audiobook back. This is the sequel to Crave, also by Tracy Wolff, which I enjoyed Crave. There was some aspects of it I didn't love, especially like the romance aspects of it. I'm enjoying Crush a lot more than I expected. I don't want to say why because like it's spoilers, but there is this cool like mind magic kind of that's going on in this one that's incredibly intriguing that I'm really enjoying. I think this one could potentially be a surprise for me because I think I gave Crave like 3.5 stars. So this one could potentially be a lot more than that if I end up really loving it. But I think the ending kind of annoyed me in Crave, so I'm hoping that doesn't happen with Crush also. But this one might be a while before I get back to, just because I am waiting to get the hold back from the library. And lastly, we have The Dream Thieves by Maggie Stiefvater. I'm not super far into this one either. I'm like right there. But this one is one that I am reading entirely on the physical copy. And this actually lends to me reading this one a little bit faster just because it's a paperback. So I tend to read paperbacks more than I read my hardcovers. I read The Raven Boys in November, I want to say, and I started The Dream Thieves like right away, right after that, and then I lost the book. I lost it. I couldn't find it for the longest while, even though I was like about 50 pages into it, so that's why I haven't continued on with it, but I definitely do plan on continuing on with it. So far, the series is like really fast paced. It's definitely very YA fantasy. It's in contemporary YA fantasy because it's set in like our world, but it has like a different twist to it that I enjoy because our main character, Blue, basically if she kisses her true love, then he'll die, and then she meets a ghost who's not a ghost yet but will be a ghost in the future, and if she could see that ghost, then that means she either kills him in the future or he's her true love. So it's really intriguing and I want to see what's gonna happen. And then of course there's this search for the Raven King too, which is interesting. It's almost like what I would say like an atmospheric fantasy. I'm enjoying the writing in this, so hopefully I can get back to this one as well. Okay, so for my wrap up, obviously I only have 2 books, but the first book I'm going to talk about is The Wandering Earth by Cixin Liu. So Cixin Liu is obviously an author that I absolutely love. I talk about him all the time. I've read his Remembrance of Earth's Past trilogy, which is fantastic and super epic. So when I saw that he had another book coming out on NetGalley, I of course had to request it, and so I did get a free copy of this from NetGalley in exchange for an honest review. I did not realize though when I was going into it that it is a series of short stories. Now that does not take away from this book at all whatsoever. Like it's still absolutely fantastic, but I just didn't know that going into it, so it was a little bit different than I was expecting, but it is also incredibly interesting because even though each short story is significantly shorter than like a novel length, all of the short stories are still somehow super epic in ways that I never expected. He is one of the most creative authors that I have ever read because the concepts that he comes up with are just like, how do you even come up with those concepts? There is one where this society that developed in the core of their planet, so they have like air pocket in the core of their planet. They have to like crawl out of that air pocket to Earth, but they don't know anything other than that air pocket. They don't know that there is space beyond Earth or like oceans and stuff doesn't exist. And like, it's crazy the ideas that he comes up with, and the execution of those ideas is so well done. I loved every second of this short story series. Really, really loved it. I really wish that he could have found a way to like tie them together or something like that just to make like a more epic novel. But like, they're so different. Like, each one is so different from the last, and they're all still really, really good. Honestly, like, I feel like I need to go back and read some of his older works to see if they're just as epic as his newer stuff, because this was just an absolutely fantastic read, and I ended up giving it 4.5 stars. And the other book that I managed to finish in the month of December, I actually started and finished it in the month of December, so I'm pretty proud of this, and that's 11/22/63 by Stephen King. I've kind of been in very much of a time travel mood. Like, pretty much any time travel novel that I could find, I've been picking up. And in my recent reads, I talked about The Time Traveler's Wife. I ended up liking that a lot more than I was expected, even though it wasn't like the typical time travel novel that I'd pick up. So I knew this also wasn't the typical type of time travel novel that I would pick up normally, but it's Stephen King, and I tend to like Stephen King's books. So I was just like, you know what? Let me try it. Maybe I'll like it. Maybe I won't. Maybe I'll just read like a chapter or so and then stop reading. But like, I got weirdly addicted to it. Stephen King's writing is just so easy to get drawn into it and drawn into the story and get so immersed in the story that you kind of don't want to stop reading. And that's how this one was for me. Like, I just couldn't stop reading it. And this is a chunker. Like, it's huge, which is why I'm like actually really happy that I finished it, because right now I'm having a lot of trouble finishing novels. But this one was really, really interesting. It's about this high school English teacher named Jake Epping who meets this older man who shows him how he can go back in time to the 1950s. There's like this portal. I don't want to go too in depth about it because like, it is definitely something that is just fun to see as you're reading the book, like what's gonna happen. The portal, when it goes back in time, it always goes back to the same day. So if you use it, basically rewrite the portal, you rewrite time and history and all of that. So when he comes back through the portal, he can see the things that he changed. So if he stays for like a day or something, he probably didn't change very much. He can stay for longer than that, potentially change a lot. So he first decides he was gonna change the fate of one of his GED students who had kind of a traumatic childhood. So when he succeeds in doing that, then Al, the older man who like got him into this, convinces him that he should go back in time and stop the JFK assassination. It takes a really long time of this novel to get to that. Like, this is an almost 900-page novel, and I want to say the first like 700 or so pages was like learning about this world, learning about this character, like getting all of the details and stuff, the worlds and stuff like that. I loved every second of it. It was so great. And then you can see like little details that Stephen King kind of just wove throughout the novel, where like hints and clues to like his other novels, which is really great. Like the clown from It, for example, was calling to him at one point, and like different things like that. I enjoy those little Easter eggs. I haven't read like all of the Stephen King's novels, so obviously I'm sure I missed a lot of them, but I still really, really enjoyed all of those little details. It was just so much fun to read. It was just a great experience. I loved every second of this, and it was fantastically done. Like, I think the actual time travel and how that worked, and like what happened at the end when they actually got to the JFK assassination, it was fantastic. I loved every second of this, and I ended up giving it 4.75 stars. It was definitely a fantastic book to read, and it definitely helped me kind of get out of a reading slump. I mean, I wasn't fully in a slump when I was reading this. I could only really read one book at a time, and this was just the one that was always calling to me, and I really, really enjoyed reading it. So if you haven't picked up this book and you're a little scared of it, it's super easy to read. Like, I had no problems with it, and I actually really liked how it turned out. Apparently Stephen King can write sci-fi or historical fiction, or like sci-fi historical fiction. I don't know. It's an alternate history book, if that makes sense. But it was great, and I really enjoyed it. So that's all I have for you guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. I post videos on Tuesdays and Saturdays, so consider subscribing. If you'd like to be notified as soon as I upload, you can click that little bell icon. If you like this video, please give it a big thumbs up to support my channel. All social media links are in the description down below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.